Hello and welcome to Mulch, with me your host Rebecca Anning-Brown. This is a weekly podcast for flower farmers who want to build a confident flower farming practice that reflects the lifestyle that you want now and in the future. Each week I'll share conversation and tips to nurture and grow you and your flower farm. I'll open conversations that flower farmers find difficult to talk about, provide approaches that will help you to make decisions, chuckle at the idiosyncrasies of our work, and always be real and honest about my own work as a flower farmer. My goal is to help you to grow a curious, confident and grounded flower farming practice that flourishes as a business that you love and are proud to shout about. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you like what you hear, please do leave a review and share the podcast with your flower farming friends. It really does help to grow a confident and successful flower farming community.
Hello and welcome back to Mulch. How are you? I was beginning to think that I was just being wet when I described things as so autumnal in my part of Leeds. Then Hattie, who is one of my favourite flower farmer friends, popped over to collect an order at the weekend and said that as she drove towards Leeds, once she was on our road in particular, she couldn't believe how much further on autumn was here compared to where she grows, which is, it's like 10, 15 miles away. It's not far. So this is my weather description for today. Cool, wet, yellowing grass, conkers falling from the trees. It's autumn. How are things where you are? I wanted to start the episode today by saying thank you. Thank you for the small flurry of listeners who have bought us a coffee in the past week or so. If you don't know what that is, it is essentially an app where you can support the work that we do here on Mulch by buying Antony and I a coffee. The link that takes you to our page is in the notes on your podcast provider page. And it's there most weeks. The most important reason for this is because it puts an enormous smile on my face when I see this appear in our inbox. It makes me feel like the podcast is useful and appreciated and listened to, because that's the reason that we do it. It's incredibly hard to get feedback about the podcast. So this really helps me to know that we are producing the right content for you. And yes, we are also extremely grateful for every single penny. I can't tell you how grateful. And I do love coffee, black coffee, no milk, no sugar. I would love it if more of you would share your feedback and a coffee. The link is in the show notes today. Now, when Hattie came, she made me laugh for a number of reasons. However, it was when she said, I almost punched X, you can fill in the blanks, when they said that I must be looking forward to a rest over winter. Now, if you know who Hattie is, she is the kindest, sweetest, most generous and wholehearted person. And this is so out of character for her that it made me shriek with laughter. Because as you know, flower farmers do not rest over winter. Last week I talked about the things that we do now as the season slows so that our future flower farming selves will be grateful in 2025. Today I'm going to talk to you about using your records over winter, and I'm going to talk to you about starting to make those plans for what you do over winter. And the reason to do this, in part, is because we're approaching that time of year, and thinking ahead is really helpful to prepare you. And also because I know that the reason that I wrote the Flower Farmers Planner is to help you to improve your flower farming practice. And so looking back over the notes that I have scribbled in my now muddy Flower Farmers Planner over the last year is part of what I've been doing, along with being in the field, to help me with that planning for winter work. We have to be really careful about looking back, because the intention is not to beat ourselves over the head with a branch. The purpose of looking back is purely to consider what we might change given what we know now. And we couldn't have known it at the time. And we have to test new things. And if we're not testing new things and not getting stuff wrong or not needing to improve or not needing to change, then we're not trying hard enough, because flower farming is full of risk and errors and things going wrong. So look back over those things and use them to help your future self, rather than use them as ways to tell yourself off. Okay? You're doing an amazing job as a flower farmer, but we can all always do better. So I thought I'd give you some examples. Now that I don't work in the field on my own, I'm not the only person who needs to understand how to find things. And I can't expect everyone to know the history of the field setup. And so the history of the field setup is how I have come to name particular areas of the field. And so it makes perfect sense to me, and some sense to Antony, but it makes absolutely no sense to somebody who wasn't there when we started. So one of the things on my plan for winter is to have a conversation with our small team and to make a clear and ordered identification system for our field. So this will be a change in our process, and it will require some thought and getting used to, both on my part and for our team. It will make it so much easier for our small team to negotiate the field, and it will stop the wrong thing being cut or the wrong thing being dug up. And it's something that I've had written down at least once a month when something's gone wrong all year. But I haven't got around to it, and I haven't made the time to sit down so that we can do it properly and do it together. So that is on my list of winter work. The second example is around moving plants. So on Friday, I took out a wall of weeds that has been irritating me for months. And now that the bed is weeded, I can dig up the hypericum, which is currently wasting a lot of bed space elsewhere, and replant them in one long line so that they only take up one bed. I mean, hypericum's a real love-hate with my customers. I don't know how your customers get on with it, but there may be a case in the future for me taking it out completely, but we're not there yet. Where I've put it at the moment, where it currently is a massive field planning error. It won't be difficult to rectify now that the weeds have gone. And literally every time I've walked past that hypericum this year with the field plan in hand, deciding where we're going to plant what next, I have scribbled in anger at how much space is wasted because of how they're currently planted, but it was the wrong time to move them. So not only will this make me happier and more zen in my field, it will also delay the need, if there truly is a need, for us to finish our field expansion. Which brings me to a third example of winter work that will probably go on in our field, which is around field planning. So I have recorded and will upload later on this evening some thoughts and comments and advice for using the field planning section in your Flower Farmers Planner. By upload, I mean that I will upload them to our learning platform so that anyone who's bought the planner will be able to see and watch and hopefully use it as some guidance or to promote some thought as to how they're going to use the planner themselves. And there'll be lots of other sections like this being added to the Learn platform over the course of autumn and winter and into next year. However, the purpose of my field plan review was to work out whether or not we need to complete the field expansion that we started last year in terms of new beds. So last spring, summer, that's 2023, we made 6 rows of new beds that are a mixture of annuals, perennials and foliage. There was a section at the bottom of the field that we ignored and was very grassy, and this autumn that has become our next eucalyptus, or late summer it became our next eucalyptus plantation. So the question mark is about winter. When I completed the review, I worked out how much space I have in terms of bed space to plant into. And then I sat down with Antony to go through it and to compare it to our business plan. Because our business plan started at the beginning of this year, so we do a 2-year cycle and runs until the end of next year. And ultimately, the answer is that yes, we probably will. I say probably, we will do that expansion work over winter. Not because I want to, interestingly, because it's cold and wet. And not because it makes great social media watching. I always film these things. I share parts of it, not all of it. And definitely not because it will be nice to boast about how many beds we have. We'll do it because we need to, from a business perspective. So I wrote about business planning on the Flowers from the Farm Facebook page on Saturday. In it, I reminded people that business planning doesn't need to be complicated, but there are a number of areas that you really need to think about for your flower farming business in order to understand your purpose. Now, don't roll your eyes at me and say, well, obviously my purpose is to grow flowers, because it's not just growing flowers. That's what happens in most people's gardens. It's growing flowers for who, why, who are you serving, who are you working with? And once you understand that purpose, it helps you to drive and maintain momentum towards your end goal. There are 2 opportunities to join me for a business planning workshop this autumn-winter. These are on the 8th of November and the 6th of January. Both are on Zoom and both will be uploaded to the learning platform afterwards, so that you'll have lifelong access, and you'll also have the workbook that goes with it so you can repeat it in future years. It's really important to do that work regularly so that you know where you're headed, why you're working, what you want to achieve. So finally, in the Flower Farmers Planner, there is an area each month related to your business plan. It's not just that area each month. There's also weekly goal setting areas. And the intention behind this is to make it easier to keep you focused on your business plan, to make it harder to be distracted by the shiny things that you may have seen on social media, and to help you keep that momentum. We want your flower farm to grow. We want your flower farm to be as successful, if not more successful, year on year, and to reach where you want and or need it to be. And that takes regular, not constant, but regular attention to what your aim is, and focus on where you're going, and just kind of ignoring other people a little bit, because what they do is what they need to do for their flower farm. All right, there are links to pre-order the Flower Farmers Planner and to book your place on the business planning workshop in the show notes. Or you can go straight to our website, which is www.silvergreyfoliage.com. Both of these things will help you to grow your flower farm. So, my friends, it's time to find your thermals. Oh, it really is. I'm sat here with a bath mat under my feet so that my feet don't get cold. It's time to make plans for winter. I will be back next Monday with another episode of Mulch. I'll be talking about another topic related to flower farming in practice. And I'll speak to you then. Rebecca.
Thank you for listening to Mulch. I hope that you found it useful. To find the show notes, head back to our website where you'll find links to all the things that I've been talking about in today's episode. If you're on Instagram, you can find us at Silver Grey Foliage. I would appreciate it so much if you were able to share this episode in your Instagram stories. And if you are able to leave a review, it really will help more people to get on and grow. I'll be back with you next Monday to talk about more flower farming in practice. Rebecca.